What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Redshirt Podcast. I am your host, DG, along with my guy, my brothers in the building, Trey, at That Way A16. The Redshirt Podcast, we're back for another episode. We got a very, very, very special episode today. Week 0 is upon us. The countdown, I think we wanted a week and a half away.
We
college football
close
start?
to it. August 23rd is right around that corner. So
getting real close. Football is near, but of course, like I said, this is gonna be a special episode. We're gonna do a little bit something different today. Talk a little Chiefs football as well today too. A little NFL. Like I said, we got very, very special guests for you guys. But Trey, how's it going? How you been today? How's everything in your world today, brother?
It's a great time, man. I love the fact that we're getting through those dog days of summer. We kicking all that heat out the way so we can get ready for some cool air. Football's in a good swing. I got high school football going on right now. Collegiate football again. Everybody's doing fall camp. Chiefs just finished up they last practice in St. Joe. So I mean, fall football is in full swing for sure. So It's a great time. I'm loving it.
Yeah, we right up on the cusp. Like you said, Chiefs just finished up the last camp practice. I know they're pretty happy to get out of those dorms and get back to their own beds and homes at this point in time. So definitely a great feeling going into Seattle, I believe, this week.
Yeah, Seattle.
For second preseason game, 9:00 start, which is obviously wild. I've never seen anything like 9:00 start for a preseason game, but it's the West Coast, so it always is a little weird and funky out there. But
I'm gonna tell you this right now. You know that feeling when you get out of a twin XL, you get yourself back at your queen bed.
Yeah, it gotta feel good to be able to get back to your own home and get your own rest. But like I said, man, we got a very, very special guest today, man. So I'm just gonna go ahead and introduce him, man. He's an Epi Award winner for the best blog. He's been previously named the top beat writer in his circulation by AP Sports editors. He formerly covered the Chiefs for the KC Star, the Topeka Capital Journal, and the Lawrence Journal World. He also covered KU athletics at a point in time. He is a sports analytics guru. Influenced by his math teaching father, who used to hand out rulers.
Okay.
Trick or treaters on Halloween. So, with that being said, my guy, we are happy to have Jesse Newell is in the house with us tonight on the Redshirt Podcast. Mr. Newell, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great. I have to give you that 20 now for that welcome. Gosh darn it. I thought I was going to get away and not have to pay it. My dad was a middle school teacher. So, yeah, any of those middle schoolers who showed up in costume or not in costume and he recognized them, it was a problem because he had a different stack. There was the candy stack and there was the ruler stack. So if he recognized you and you were one of his middle schoolers, you got the ruler and you had to use it in class the next day.
Oh, man. See, I saw that fact and I was like, I can't pass that up. That's just too much gold right there in that fact. To be a trick-or-treater out there on the streets on a cold, crisp Halloween night and to get a ruler, I know that had to be.
If I got a ruler in mine, if I definitely had a ruler in my candy, I'm done. I'm done.
I don't think they were kept, guys. I think they got tossed, but he was making his point,
Right. So, like we said, you now transitioned to the athletic writing for them, but you previously worked for the Kansas City Star. I think we'll start right there. Just how's that transition been since working, with the Star and Topeka and Lawrence, and now working your way up to working with the. Congratulations, by the way, working with the Athletic as well.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, guys. I've been on the job 1 week. I actually, on Sunday's practice, was working for the Star, and then Monday was working for the Athletics. So, no rest for the weary on that one. But it's been great so far. It's a little bit different role to be able to kind of step back and write some bigger picture type stuff with the Athletic, and also they were just bought by the New York Times. So I think upstairs I haven't even opened the FedEx yet, but I quickly applied for a badge down on Times Square to be able to go walk into the Times building, the skyscraper, and act like I own the place. So I don't want to be turning that one down either. So it's been great, and like you said, I mean, still covering the Chiefs. I've been covering the Chiefs for 3 years now. This is gonna be my fourth, and back when I transitioned over at the Star to be able to cover, I thought, hey, it'd be really cool to just, maybe cover a Super Bowl at some time and, point in time. And then they went to 1, they went to 2, they went to 3. So yeah, it's been a cool experience to cover the Chiefs, and obviously they'll be in the running this year as well.
Right. Yeah.
I want to ask this question because I think that some people, they think that, everybody's special moment as an athlete is to get in that first call, that first contract. For you, getting that call from the Athletic and saying, we want you here, that had to have been you had to had a smirk on your face or something when you got that email call, whatever it was.
Yeah, it was a call for sure. And like you said, I mean, there's some things. This is just a little bit different than the Star. I mean, the Star covers the heck out of the Chiefs, and they send more people on the Chiefs beat. And, I love the people I work with there, Vahe and Sam and Blair, great guys. Sure. I did this is just different kind of on a national scale. I realized that this week the Chiefs have a big documentary coming out on ESPN, and they gave us an advance copy. So I was like, hey, I'll review it. I'll write it. I'm sure some Chiefs fans will read it and kind of from that Chiefs lens, kind of write this thing. And all of a sudden, so I'm like, okay, this will be to a Chiefs audience. The Chiefs fans will read it. They'll appreciate it, comment on it, whatever. Well, the New York Times decides that they like it, and they put it on their sports page online. And all of a sudden, the only people that are reading this are Eagles fans and Bills fans. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, welcome to the Athletic moment. Chiefs fans anymore, they don't like this article very much. So the national thing is going to be a little bit different, and I'll have to kind of get that through my head a little bit. This isn't just the Kansas City Star. You're kind of catering your thing to the Chiefs fans out there. This is a whole different deal where Eagles fans were ready to strike, and they were ready with the tomatoes. And it's funny, they were sort of saying, "You're wrong with this review. This is terrible. You're not saying this right." It's not public until tomorrow. Nobody's seen this until tomorrow. So it's we can't wait a few hours to watch this and before they throw the tomatoes at me. But it's a little different experience here, and I'm sure I'll get used to it.
Shout out to my guy CJ for joining us, jumping in on his.
My apologies, fellas. My apologies.
You good? So Jesse, if you can, let's take a little trip back to New Orleans. A little bit. I know it's hard for some Chiefs fans to talk about. What was that experience like, trying to cover a game, a disaster, a massacre like that?
Yeah, and it's just different, guys, because I just told you I covered 2 Super Bowls when they won, and you're walking in, and the first one I'm trying to get a story done, and I'm getting champagne sprayed on me by Amir Smith-Marset. Things are popping there. The year before, it's in Vegas, and I don't think it was a coincidence, guys, that the last team the Chiefs lost to that year was the Raiders, and that was at Arrowhead. And if you go back and look, Max Crosby celebrated in the Chiefs visiting locker room by smoking up cigars. Yes. Well, the Chiefs happened to be in the Raiders locker room in the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden, all these cigars get dispersed. So instead of saying, hey, they're celebrating, they were celebrating the cigars. I was like, that's sort of interesting. I wonder why it was cigars this time. And I don't think it was a coincidence that twisting the knife a little bit with the Raiders and Max Crosby with that one. But, you're so used to the celebratory locker rooms. Everybody's going nuts. Everybody happy to talk to you. It's a little different. I grabbed the guys, kind of said, we had a big group with the Star to go cover these games. And we get to go to a place that nobody else gets to go to. And so I sort of grabbed them and said, I just want to go to the locker room. I want to see what guys are doing, what's going on, what we can find. And, you see scenes like, Xavier Worthy's got his head up against the wall, dejected, and he has the greatest rookie game in Super Bowl history. And yet it's the emotion you have in a locker room. I remember Pacheco was distraught, and we went over to talk to Leo Chanel. If you remember, there was a crossing route that A.J. Brown scored on, and, he almost had tears in his eyes. He was talking about how Nick Bolton changed the coverage on that particular play, and he didn't get the call correctly. And he really felt responsible for that touchdown, which, it didn't turn the course of the game, but he felt like he could have stepped in, and if he would have gotten the call like he should have, he could have made a play for his team. And so you see all those things. Tammy Reed, the wife of Andy Reid, is outside and she's hugging everybody who comes out. And I remember Steve Spagnuolo coming up and him apologizing, said, "I'm so sorry." You know what I mean? And so these are real emotions. And so that's what you want to convey in those moments is just, again, there's a very few select people that get to go in the locker room after that particular game and see the emotions and see what exactly is going on with this particular game. And I think the longest hug that Tammy Reid had afterwards was Kareem Hunt. And it makes sense, right? I mean, Kareem Hunt waited his whole life to get back with the Chiefs, to have a Super Bowl experience, and then had it end like that. And so, wrote about that long embrace. But, the long story short is just, there's a lot of different emotions that go into that. And you're trying to make sure you get that because you're one of a very few who get to see that and see that in the moments after, such a crushing defeat for the Chiefs and, them being on the verge of history.
Yeah. Obviously, it had to be tough. I remember sitting. I was watching I watched all 3 Super Bowls with my family, the ones that we won, in the same spot at home with my parents, my mom, my dad, my sister, wherever. And I don't ever think I remember how quiet our house has been. You could hear like the creaks of the house just everywhere, and then I don't even remember the halftime performance or any of that. It was just a complete, total, utter disaster. So, but yeah, moving on from all that to happier and better times. Obviously, a new Chiefs season is on the horizon for us, and like you said, you've made the switch to being over with the Athletic now. So going into this new season, what have you felt like has been your expectations and thoughts on the upcoming season for them, especially starting this year with the first game being in Brazil?
Yeah, that'll be an experience, guys. And we saw last year that the turf was not very good, so hopefully the NFL got with them and
fingers crossed, Jess, please.
Yeah, no, I mean that's everybody's fingers are crossed with that particular one, but you hope to beat the second one in, which the Chiefs are, after they kind of messed it up last year, and then. If you go back and look, I know there's an Eagles player who kind of communicated the same thing that we've sort of been hearing, which is like when you go to Brazil, basically just go to the game and back. Don't mess around. You know what I mean? Don't do anything crazy. Just kind of go to the game and be back there. So that'll be fascinating, though, and obviously streamed across the world with a worldwide audience in that particular game. As far as training camp goes, that's the same thing when I talk about the Super Bowl. The difference to being a training camp is it's my job to be there every day. And so I know some people drop in for 1 or 2 days, but if you're there, you kind of get every day, you kind of get the whole grasp of it. And I do think the Chiefs, for them to get to where they want to get back to, the offense needs to go back to what it was. And it doesn't have to be 2018 Mahomes throwing sidearm touchdowns everywhere, 50 touchdowns, all that sort of stuff. It doesn't have to be MVP Mahomes, but it has to be an offense that leads them. And for much of last year, when they started 15-1, it really didn't feel like the offense. I mean, you're happy when the defense helps you, but it was not an offense that was feared and not an offense that we had seen before. They've been dinged up with some injuries. We know that, Hollywood Brown, his ankle is taking some time to get back. And Rashee Rice, we don't know how long he's going to be suspended for. Most likely will be at the start of the season. But I think it's been a great camp for Mahomes. And I do think when they're healthy and they have all their guys, I could see the potential for their offense to take off, especially with the story of camp, which is, it's been Josh Simmons on the left side, the left tackle. They don't need Pro Bowl level play at left tackle. They need like average to below average. And so far, he's answered. He's answered everything so far. With his knee and being in there and his professionalism. Yeah. And the Chiefs love what he's done so far. So if that is just secure, you can take some more downfield shots. You can have more in your offense. And I think the Chiefs feel good about their weapons. It's just a matter of them getting back on the field now. So we'll see if Hollywood gets back in there, how long Rashee Rice is suspended for. But if you have those 2 guys, along with Xavier Worthy, along with Jalen Royals, who will have his ups and downs, but will be in there, and then Tyquan Thornton, who they love, I think that Mahomes and Matt Nagy, the offensive coordinator, I think they're legitimately excited about what this offense can do and potentially getting back to that top 5 tier sort of category where all of a sudden the Chiefs offense is feared again and you see a Mahomes that you really haven't seen the last couple of years.
And I love the fact that you brought up the whole thing about Josh Simmons not having to be Pro Bowl-ish, because we've been trying to tell fans, we've been trying to tell some of our own fellow content creators that we understand the Josh Simmons hype because we watched him at Ohio State. We know what he can be, but we've been trying to sit over here and tell people is like, you don't really need him to be a Pro Bowler. You don't need him to be an All Pro. You don't need a guy like like we've seen like the Zach Martins, we've seen like the Tyron Smiths and whatnot, and they're great. But we're not expecting them to be that. We just need somebody who can protect this blind side. I'm glad that you're able to reiterate it because it's just we're feeling like we're preaching to a brick wall at times.
Yeah,
so,
last year I did a segment last couple of years with Brett Tabo, who's now he used to be a high school offensive coordinator. He's actually joined on again in Tennessee, and so he breaks down the X's and O's for me. But he has a phrase that I love, which is "get your ass beat slowly." The Chiefs need somebody out there to get their ass beat slowly. So that, I mean, Mahomes is amazing at dealing with pressure. He is. He's shown that over time. Like if you look at his sack rate over time, he's way lower than everybody else in the league because, I mean, when they made and won the Super Bowl with Donovan Smith, like Donovan Smith was below average, but he was out of the league the next year, but he looked great compared to what they lined up there last year. So
exactly.
You saw like, I know that Jeff Schwartz broke down the Chiefs tackle play on Twitter, did a great job breakdown of it. And obviously he is way more going to know more about that stuff than most of us are. But there was an example. He was saying, hey, I would like it better if Josh Simmons got a punch in on this guy. You know what I mean? I would like it better if he attacked a little bit more. But the bottom line was he sort of dropped his weight. He kind of caved his body and built into his core, and he got his butt beat slowly. And Mahomes, the ball is out. You know what I mean? So the Chiefs need a non-turnstile. And frankly, last year they had too many turnstiles. And Mahomes can deal with some things going on. He can't deal with immediate pressure from the edge that he can't see. And so, if you ask the Chiefs about Josh Simmons, it's hard for them to not be excited about him because they've seen the athleticism, they've seen the movement skills, and that really can unlock their offense. If they get average play there for the next 4 years, I mean, sign them up. All of a sudden, all bets are off of their offense because they can start to do some of the explosive things that they want to do a year ago, and really their hands were tied.
Gotcha. And I saw some of the film I watched during like pre-draft process of Jesse, and the biggest thing I saw for him was his foot speed. He gets off the ball extremely fast. And the first person I thought of when we did an interview with Jeff Allen a couple weeks ago, I thought of Tristan Wirfs. Like the athleticism is there on top of the fact he has the size on top of that. So I know he's getting a lot of comparisons to guys like Trent Williams, and rightfully so. He has a similar build. But if his feet, and I'll call it, our O-line coach kind of had the similar quote that you said earlier, Jeff. He called it move your puppies. If you can get your feet and get your puppies back there and get in position, even if you get beat, if I'm in position, it takes you another second longer to get around me. It gives the quarterback another half a second to get the ball out. And for an extra second for a guy like Mahomes is everything in the world for him. So I think just having a guy like Josh, it'll be night and day for this offense for sure.
Well, and even I talked to him in the locker room after the Arizona game. There was one, I'm sure you guys saw the clip where he was getting hands to the face from the guy and still around. And it was funny. Josh said, "Yeah, those guys do that on accident a lot." You know what I mean? Like, my arm got up there and they get away with it. He explained it well. Like he's a studier of the game because he goes, "Hey, when that happens, you just kind of embrace your core, you sink down, and if you do so, those guys lose their leverage." And so, even that sort of detailed answer. A couple other tidbits, guys. I've been talking to people, around the Chiefs about this, and the knee thing obviously is what kept him from getting drafted, but they had a couple guys that loved him through the pre-draft process. And then you sit down and, I was talking with Mike Bradway, the assistant GM for the Chiefs, and says, they kind of had a couple guys give high grades to him. So he puts on the film and he looks at like 5 plays and is just like, throw him to the top of the board. No need to. But that's the athleticism. That's the movement skills you see. We see, Jawan Taylor's had the penalties because he tries to kick step back so quickly. But he does have a good kick step back. If you watch some of that film against Arizona, that is what Josh Simmons is doing. He's getting back and getting in position, and some of the athletic tools, I know that they're really excited about it. He moves in a different way than any left tackles they've had, at least since I've been covering them the last 3 years. So that's obviously something to be excited about with this kid that's young and, again, overcame the injury a lot quicker than they anticipated.
And I'm glad you brought up Jawan, because I was going to ask about the right side, because it seems like we're really getting to a little bit tighter of a battle than what some expected to see, because it's like now first you had Jalen Moore before Josh got drafted. We had thoughts that maybe he was going to be the guy on the left side, but then now we try and kick him over to the right side, and you seem like there might be a bit of a battle. What did you see from training camp that makes you think, is there really a real battle, or do you feel like it's still going to be Jawan Taylor's?
So it's hard to know exactly, because I think for the Chiefs, you understand why Jalen Moore's on this roster because you have to secure something, and the free agency comes before the draft. So because you secured Jalen Moore, you allow a guy like Josh Simmons to fall to you, and all of a sudden you have two options rather than the none you had last year. So all of this makes sense. I mean, if they could flip those and they knew they could have drafted Josh Simmons, would they get Jalen Moore? It would be nice to have a security blanket, but maybe you wouldn't. But they didn't know what would be available for them, and tackles usually go so early. It's been interesting to watch because, Andy Reid will always say, the Chiefs coach, they say the Chiefs rotate guys. They always like to rotate their guys, like to see what's happening. But recently, you're right. I mean, as late as this practice, the last practice is training camp, they would have Juwan Taylor going for 5 snaps, and then Jalen Moore would replace him after that. And so the rotation is Juwan Taylor, right tackle, Jalen Moore, right tackle, and going that way. So is it a true competition? I don't know. I mean, if I'm the Chiefs, I think the best scenario is to always have a backup plan for both of those guys. And Absolutely. You don't want to go into a scenario like last year where they put all their eggs in the Kingsley basket and then that didn't work out and there was really no fallback plan to go to. The other part with Juwan Taylor is his cap hit this year is the second highest of any right tackle in football. So, I mean, I'm all about like playing the best guy or, having a competition, but like, are you going to bench a guy making $27 million to play right tackle for you? I mean, that would really be ballsy. And if you do that, I mean, surely there's another team out there that would need a right tackle like Juwan Taylor and be willing to take him if you're going to trade him and you lose your security blanket. I guess that would make you wonder about how they feel about a Wanye Morris or an Issa Pole, some of those backup sort of tackles they have. So I would say based off their actions, they're still rotating those guys. That's the most rotation we see on the offensive line. So I don't think they're ruling that out. I just sort of wonder with Juwan Taylor, that seems like an asset to me that you don't want to bench for $27 million against your cap. So I don't know the exact scenario that would play out if you want Jalen Moore to be your right tackle, but they're at least putting him out there enough to make me think that thing is still an ongoing competition and that there's at least some smoke to that fire that they like what they've seen from Moore right tackle.
Yeah, I kind of went into it with the thought process that you can't be over prepared, especially on your line, especially after what you experienced last year, which we kind of went through. So that's why I was give props to Brett Veach and his staff for going out there and executing the plan, having a plan to be able to bring in guys that they feel like they can be comfortable with to obviously protect the franchise and protect the most important player on this team to be able to get you to win the Super Bowl. With you being at camp though, every day, who outside of the Josh Simmons and the Jalen Royals and those guys of the world that have kind of come in are new faces, what players do you feel like came in new that their stock is rising, and what players do you feel like some of their stock may be going down at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you got to kind of be there every day to see. You're not relying on me for the football X and O's expertise on these things, and we don't know exactly. Sometimes the drills, like sometimes it's 3rd and 8, they're trying to get something. But what I can really tell is who's with the first team, who's with the second team, who's with the third team. I mean, that's the stuff day after day after day where you're like, okay, this is something I can tell you guys. I will tell you that throughout camp, Tyquan Thornton has been one of the guys that has stood out, and he's gone from is he going to make the roster? What's he going to be to like basically a lock? And if you look at the Justin Watson role last year, I think that's what he takes over. He'll play some special teams. He can be a gunner. And then he's building up some chemistry with Mahomes, which a couple weeks ago, I think this was a big deal. He caught a pass. Patrick Mahomes retweeted the video and the clip of it. And we know with Patrick, like trust is so important. I mean, he has to be able to trust you to throw it to it. And we've seen Andy Reid and Matt Nagy talk about, hey, it sure seems like Patrick Mahomes is developing some trust with Tyquan Thornton. Now, he has that speed. He had the 9th fastest 40 time when he ran it in 2022. So the Chiefs love those speedy guys. And then we remember Justin Watson as well. Sometimes the Chiefs just want to space the field and take the safety with you. So there's going to be some for the love of the game routes that he runs, and that's going to be fine. You know what I mean? Like that's going to be the Justin Watson role that he'll take. But I think he's been one of the biggest risers of camp and one of the biggest risers overall from the Chiefs from maybe what we thought 3 or 4 months ago. I would say a faller right now at the moment would be Redshirt Smith. I thought going into it that he would be a guy, not wide receiver, running back sort of combo they could figure out. I mean, I know this is maybe cover yours a little bit, but kind of figure out a Kadarius Toney role for him. You know, you get him 8 to 10 scripted snaps to figure out a way to get him in space. But we didn't see much from him in the preseason game. He's sort of fallen down the depth chart here lately, and he still is a 7th-round pick. I mean, you know, last year the Chiefs cut a 6th-rounder, and we really didn't – Kamal Hadden didn't make really much of a – there wasn't much noise about it. You just sometimes cut 6th-rounders, and so I would say for him, he's somebody to watch in these preseason games because I don't know about the role for him. And the other problem with him potentially playing a 3rd-down back role is you have to be able to block on that in that specific scenario. And Patrick Mahomes has to be able to trust you. And to ask a rookie to do that who's played receiver most of his life, that's a really tough ask. And I do think the Chiefs, you know, at the 2 positions right now, if they're going out and looking on the waiver wire or free agency or a trade, I think it's defensive tackle on the interior next to Chris Jones. Could use another run-stopping body there just to add some depth. And then 3rd down back. Could they get a guy with a little bit of juice who can block? And I mean, I know that's the sort of thing that is maybe tougher to get. I don't know who's going to be cut out there, but I'm not sure the Chiefs have been wowed by the running backs outside of Isaiah Pacheco in this preseason camp. And so I'd be looking for them to potentially here in the next couple of weeks be looking at their options and scouting other teams and seeing potentially what's out there because I think that's a position they could upgrade very easily, and they potentially think they might need an upgrade before the season starts here in a couple of weeks.
Gotcha. I was going to ask a question, and I know DG ain't going to like it because he's not the biggest fan of him. He already know what I'm about to ask.
Oh, boy. Get ready for this one, Jesse.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Bracing myself.
So, what is in your eyes, what is the percent chance, if you give yourself about a rounded number, what's the percent chance that Carson Steele makes the team?
Oh, God.
Carson Steele. Oh, hey, that's a good one. I would have said going into the week, like last week, not good. He ran very much behind all those other guys, and you can see maybe some of those special team snaps being taken up by other guys. This past couple days, he's run more with the upper teams. So I would say sort of what I told you earlier kind of plays into this, which is if you want to talk about a guy who probably has not had a good camp, it'd be Elijah Mitchell. He's got to show something in a preseason game, and they took him in free agency kind of thinking that burst would be back. We've just yet to see it. And it's hard to tell running game stuff at camp. I get it. You know, they don't take guys to the ground, all that stuff. But I think their hope was, hey, after all these injuries, he comes back, and he's one of those dynamic players who can help them with explosive plays. And we just haven't seen evidence of that so far. And so if you're the Chiefs and you're not getting that from Elijah Mitchell and you're not going to get him on special teams, you might as well keep a Carson Steele type who can help you on special teams and maybe play a role in the blocking with the fullback game. Do I think he's still going to make the roster? I don't know. I think that one's still probably to be determined based off of what happens with their running back room and how Elijah Mitchell looks. But a week ago, I would have told you no, even though he's a guy that they kept all of last season. But he does provide more versatility if you don't like your other options there. He should know the offense by year 2, and he provides you something a little bit different. Like I said, I think Elijah Mitchell plays a lot into that, and other guys outside the building they potentially might trade for, get off of waivers, whatever could impact that as well. And so much of this roster math, guys, comes down to can you get them back to your roster? And I always just think with Carson, how many teams have a fullback? Like if you cut him, if you waive him, how many other teams are ready to sign? You know, how many teams have a fullback outside the Chiefs? Like 6, 8? And that's going to go into the receiver battle as well, which is like how can you keep as many assets as possible? And that goes into these roster decisions because if you have a guy like that and can get him back to the practice squad and keep somebody else, then that's potentially the route you want to go to.
Yeah. Because I know DG, my guy has not been the biggest fan of Carson.
He's not fond of the alligator.
He's not fond of love. He's not in love with him like some people.
It's not the person that I think he's a great guy, a great person or whatever. More so of I just don't see where he fits into, their plan of what they like at running back. And I know Andy previously has been able to use a fullback. Obviously, we've seen Anthony Sherman be here for so many years and be used in a similar way, but I don't get that sense that they want to use him in that way. I'm not sure if that's something maybe I'm wrong on, and I could be wrong on that.
He went away from a fullback, like you said, a couple years ago. They decided that they would transition away from it, and most of the NFL was. Last year was just sort of a weird year too because Carson impressed in the preseason. He had some really good runs. And then they had injuries, so he had a chance to really grab that role and take it. And then he had the fumble issues. And so if you can't really trust him to carry the football, maybe they'll give him another chance. I don't know. But if you can't trust him to carry the football, you really need him to be a great blocker. And he did some blocking last year. I don't think that's his forte. So it is this kind of weird fit. It's kind of a special teams role, kind of a fullback, but he doesn't really block. He was never a fullback before this. So that's why I think, when he was running back drills earlier this camp, he was the fourth string, basically. Yeah. But like I said, I don't know how the Chiefs feel right now about Elijah Mitchell. And then Kareem it's another interesting fit as well. I mean, I know Kareem is a fan favorite, but you're basically keeping him as a short yardage back. Like, he is your 3rd and 1 back to get the first down. He's great at that, but he turned 30 this week or last week. I mean, you can't expect the burst. You can't expect the explosiveness. So are you keeping a guy on the roster? And he's not going to play special teams. So, are you keeping a guy on the roster just to have for 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2? And it can be an important down, but that's roster construction as well. If you have that guy, can you have another specific guy who is only a fullback, or can you have another specific guy in Elijah Mitchell who isn't providing the burst you want and isn't going to play special teams? So that's where all this comes into play. I mean, if you could bring back 2023 Jerick McKinnon, I think you'd make the roster right away, because they need a 3rd down back who can catch the ball in the backfield, who can be trusted with blocking, who can play special teams. That's the guy they're going to look for on the waiver wire. They don't have that guy. And so if they can pull him from somewhere, then all of a sudden I think this math with the running back sort of becomes a little bit different.
Yeah, I saw Brashard do a couple of pass pro snaps in the Arizona game. They were towards the end, obviously, with the 3s and the 4s. He looked somewhat comfortable. Obviously, like you said, he didn't get too many reps of that, playing receiver at Miami, then transferring to SMU. I think the reason why he should, at least if I had to advocate for him, why he should make the roster, he can't return kicks. I did see him do that with Nico back there. And I think we just haven't had that much dynamic speed, like you said, since Jet, even since Dexter McCluster. Brashard Smith's a very explosive player. I just think we need that speed element back there, because I love Pacheco and I love Kareem. It's just they can only take a run so far, maybe a 20, maybe a 25-yarder. I think Brashard can do those 30, 40, even 50-yard plays if he gets the ball in his hand, because I think he's that special. So.
Yeah, and some of the whispers have been playbook, and that's not a surprise, guys. I mean, this is a complicated playbook to get to go, and sometimes those guys hit the rookie wall with it, and that's why you'll be interested to see, if it's the same thing we're talking about. If the Chiefs cut him, he's still a 7th-round pick. I mean, are other teams going to waive somebody else to bring him on board? I don't know that answer. I mean, maybe you can get him back to the practice squad. Maybe you're still able to have those resources. I'm glad you brought up the return game, because now – so if you have Redshirt Smith, he's not quite ready to be a 3rd down role, but you can make him a returner, then maybe you can have his roster spot. But if they're frustrated with him at return, then all of a sudden maybe you're going back to Nico Remigio. You say, okay, just take that. But I think him and Nico sort of go hand in hand, right? If Richard can do the returning, then all of a sudden, Nico, do you only – if Rashee Rice is suspended and you don't trust Nico as a receiver because he's not that fast. I mean, Nico's a great guy, but he's getting the most out of what he has. He's not that tall and he's not that fast, and you're not going to really rely on him to be a real receiver for you. You keep him on the roster, or do you, like last year, they waived him and he got back to the practice squad and they elevated him afterwards. So these are the sorts of questions. It's why a running back and whether they keep him impacts whether they keep a receiver, because all these things play hand in hand together. And I think for a while, sort of the thought was, if Brashard can be a little return game, can be a little bit of dynamic ability, can be a little bit of Kadarius Toney role, you can keep all those in one. But if he's just too far behind and not ready for that, then potentially you just sort of have to go with the security blanket on special teams. That's sort of the interesting battle that goes on this time of year. And I'll be interested to watch the last 2 preseason games, because those are going to be important for both of those guys.
Absolutely.
There is one player that I do want to get your opinion about, and I think a lot of people are obviously still rooting for this guy because he's a local kid, but at the same time, there feels like there is some growing concern around a guy like Felix and Udike-Uzomah at this point of him. I clearly feel like he's probably going to make the roster at this point, but there is growing concern that you're not getting what the potential of what you thought you may be getting, especially with drafting him in the 1st round. How do you think that their viewpoint right now is about him and his play on the field?
Yeah, so this is really the truth serum, guys. When you look at what the Chiefs did in the offseason and how what they did with their defensive line room, right? How they feel about Felix, they re-signed Charles Omenihu. That's a guy you potentially can walk from if you feel like Felix is going to take the next step. They re-signed George Karlaftis long term. Again, if you feel like Felix is on the verge and he's a super young player and you step up there, then potentially you can say, hey, we'll wait on this, because they had George already locked up for 2 years. They have the 4th year of his rookie deal, and he's a first-round pick, so they already signed up for the fifth-year option. So you don't have to make the action there. The draft, they draft Ashton Gelati, so another edge rusher there. So I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know, but like if they felt Felix was ready to take that next step, there's three different things they could have not done this offseason to basically say we're ready for that guy to step in the role. Yeah. Having said all that, I mean, I've heard this is his best camp. Okay, like you would expect it to be his best camp. It's his third year with the Chiefs. This is one of the underrated storylines, guys. I think their edge rusher position, the Chiefs, they are super deep. Like this could be like a top 5 sack year for the Chiefs. It wasn't last year. They had a bunch of pressures, but you go Karlaftis, you go, Amenahu, you got Mike Dana still there. You got, obviously Gelati I talked about. Even Felix, he has the tools to be able to do that sort of thing. I forgot somebody too on the edge. I know I'm missing somebody because Felix is basically the last guy you would think. As far as the edge rushers go. So he's going to get a chance, guys, and he'll be on the roster like you guys said, and he'll have the chance to show he can develop. But that is a crowded room right now. And
it really is.
Like I said, if the Chiefs really felt in the offseason, they do the evaluations. They go through every practice, every play of every practice. If they felt like Felix was on the verge, then I think there were 3 moves the Chiefs that potentially could have not made to say we're ready to step into what we think is going to be the guy of the future. Now, the thing about Felix is I believe he was the youngest guy in his draft class when the Chiefs took him. So I hate to give up on 23-year-olds or whatever the case may be, especially guys with the sort of bend he has. So we'll see. Felix is going to get a chance. He'll obviously be in the rotation, but the results have to be there a little bit more, and he knows that, and the Chiefs know that as well.
And I want to bring up another person on the D-line because you talked about earlier about how we might need to get a guy who can work the D-line, and especially a guy who is a second-round pick. And though he is a rookie in Omar Norman-Lott, it seems like there's been a little bit of a shift of the height of the quote-unquote hype train or just the excitement. What have you seen and what have you heard about him, especially coming off of this last game?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about him. My first article for The Athletic talked about 6 things that stood out in camp, and this was one of them because, Omar Norman-Lott is kind of an interesting guy because he was so productive in college, but he only played 225 snaps for Tennessee last year, like a super-duper rotation. Like they only put him on passing downs, and so to take a guy like that in the second round, you're like, you have to sort of see something in him, and I bet teams were sort of different in how they viewed him. The Chiefs love him. The Chiefs are really high on him. They loved what he did in the summer. They loved how disruptive he could be potentially next to Chris Jones. And not only that, give yourself some explosive pass rush juice next to Chris Jones, which could be great on passing downs. The thing to know about this with the context going on is there was a play we saw in practice where Omar came up lame and seemed to be kind of hobbling and favoring his ankle. And ever since then, they've kind of backed off his reps a little bit. You can see he's not completely full strength. But if you're the Chiefs, it could make sense to be like, hey, this guy got 225 snaps last year, and he needs to be this year's Turk Wharton. So it's time to have him sort of play through what's going on with him with, his potential ankle injury to see, grind through it. You're going to be fine, but they're going to need him to play. And so I think the hype, the buzz about him that started in early camp was when he was healthy. And then later on it tapered off because he wasn't in there as much, and he's grinding through, an ankle injury that's going to take a couple weeks for him to be full strength. So I would not slow down the Omar Norman-Lott hype train just because I think the reason we didn't see some of the results are something you can explain away based off what we saw in practice. And so I think I really like him, and it's part of what a draft class, this 25 one, to me is a little bit reminiscent of what we saw in 22, which is you look at some of the top ones and how much coaches are over the top about their praise with these guys. And this is how you keep these things going when you're paying top of the market money to your center and your right guard and your, potentially your edge rusher and your defensive tackle and your quarterback and your cornerback. You backfill with all these rookies. And I think they really like this rookie class. And I would definitely say Omar Norman-Lott is part of that. We'll see how he performs week 1 when fully healthy potentially, and that ankle is feeling a lot better.
Yeah. As we kind of continue to go on through this training camp off season, obviously we've seen a lot of news come out. The Jordan Addison suspension at this point, him getting 3 games, leading kind of into Rashee Rice as well. Both of them getting their pretty much their sentences and determining where their cases were going to go on the same day. But we haven't heard anything about Rashee Rice's suspension at this point. Where do you feel like that process is at this point? Where do you feel like the Chiefs think that process is?
Yeah, so Rasheed obviously settled his legal matter last month. And so that's what the NFL needs to potentially rule. They want to make sure the legal part of this, they don't want to rule on something and give him 2 games and then have the legal system say you get 3 years in jail or something. And then obviously those punishments don't match up. So the NFL anytime is going to announce a suspension for him. I can't imagine, and this is just me talking, this event took place in March of 2014. And he went through a whole year where he was not suspended. I can't imagine with Addison getting suspended, the NFL wants to have the season opener, Rasheed Rice playing and not be suspended because this has gone on and dragged on for so long. So I think it's any day, guys. I think any day we will learn at the beginning of the season that Rasheed Rice is going to be suspended. How many games you're going to ask me? I don't know, because this is sort of a weird precedent thing. And there's not as much precedent for this particular case as there has been in the past. I think it hurts Rasheed Rice that this was on video and there's photos of him walking away from the accident without potentially checking on victims. So this was kind of more public than other ones have been. But at the same time, there's been some other cases in the past. I know, like the Eccles one, I think, is one where sort of similar. I think he wasn't driving as fast, but he got 1 game for sort of reckless driving. And so if you're going based solely off precedent, you could look at that and say, maybe it would be a shorter suspension for Rasheed Rice. But, the Chiefs are ready for this. They've obviously gotten Jalen Royals a lot of snaps, and he has a similar body type skill set to Rasheed Rice. But I would be stunned if we do not hear in the next week or two that Rasheed Rice is suspended for X number of games to start the season, because I think the NFL wants to get out in front of this thing, and they do not want the Brazil game to have sort of the cloud continuing to hang over it, that Rasheed Rice 2 years later or 1.5 years later has still not been suspended for something that's been very public.
Yeah, that's been my hope, is that they just this doesn't turn into a Willie Gay situation where all of a sudden,
Week 6.
Week 6.
The league has incentive to get in front of this thing, guys. I mean, especially since the Addison case is out there, and there's already, we know from the outside appearances, there are already people, everybody favors to the Chiefs. The NFL's favoring the Chiefs. Like, they have incentive for game 1 for Rasheed Rice to have this thing, his suspension be out there, and be, away from the team and serve his suspension, and then everybody can sort of move on from there.
Last little bit about the Chiefs at this point in time. If you had to put a win-loss prediction on this year, where do you see the Chiefs ending up at?
Yeah, it's tough, guys, because you want to give them all the credit for like the close wins last year, going 15-1. I saw like the FTN Almanac does some cool like nerdy stuff I talked about with my dad and the rulers, but they said last year's Chiefs, since the merger, had the highest difference, the biggest difference between their expected wins based off of their stats and their actual wins, what they actually got. And so we know, we watched the games, like there was blocked field goals and fumbled snaps and banging off the upright and going in. I mean, there were some crazy things that happened, and those were just AFC West games at home. Like those are 3 games, which count basically double in the standings. So I'd love to give the Chiefs all the credit for all that juju that they had last year, but it's tough. I mean, I still think Andy Reid helps you. I still think Patrick Mahomes definitely helps you in close games. But can you expect to win every single one of those? Probably not. I mean, I haven't looked lately at DraftKings. Probably somewhere in the 11.5 win range is where I guess they'd have the Chiefs. So, yeah, it's 12, 13. Sounds about right to me. The AFC West is going to be competitive. And I think you have a coach and a quarterback, you got a chance. And those 3 teams, the AFC West, all have a coach and a quarterback now. So that's going to be a definite challenge. But, it still feels like Mahomes can pull out a couple in the end, and it still feels like Andy Reid's going to give you a shot every single week. So 12 to 13 range sounds right to me. That's probably lower than some other people and probably still higher than maybe what Vegas has. But that seems to me would get them the 2 or the 3 seed and give them a chance to go make another Super Bowl run. We've seen them make, here the past 3 seasons. And I think you sign up for that if you're the Chiefs, even if a team like the Bills might clip you, because we've seen them still go on the road to the Bills and beat them and have their number and give yourself a shot in the postseason. We've seen the Chiefs come through many other times, especially against the AFC teams.
I saw another funky stat last week, just during this Mahomes era, the Chiefs have the most 5-game win streaks of anybody in the NFL since Pat's taken over. So 12+ wins is usually pretty safe for the Chiefs. So.
Yeah, and again, it's not exactly where you want to be, probably. I mean, that means the Bills probably are getting the 1 seed, or the Ravens. The AFC's loaded. I mean, It's funny, if you started from the top and counted like the best quarterbacks, how far do you have to go to get to an NFC quarterback on that list? I mean, right? You got to go Mahomes, Burrow, Jackson, Allen, and
Stroud.
yeah, it's like
Herbert.
how far do you get down before you hit an NFC quarterback?
Jaden Daniels, Stafford,
Daniels is probably the first one, and again, he's done it 1 year. He's sort of in the Stroud range before Stroud hit his second season, and
exactly.
And sometimes those things aren't exactly what they appear with your rookie year. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. I guess Hurts would have an argument as well to go up there based off of his performance, but I do think the AFC is stacked more than the NFC, and obviously the AFC West is raising its level of play. And if some of those fluky things didn't go the Chiefs' way last year, that could have been a different AFC West as well. So the Chiefs will definitely have to take care of business at home as they have been, and maybe give themselves a little bit more wiggle room than they did in some of those games.
Yeah, we'll transition to another local team as well that you've been able to cover, and KU football. Their upcoming season is coming up here in week 0 as well. I think they take on Fresno State, I believe, for their first game. So covering KU athletics, we know you're kind of tapped in with them as well too. What are your thoughts and expectations on football this year?
Yeah, I mean, all those things I just said about the Chiefs winning all the close games, that is exactly the opposite with KU last year. They were in every close game and lost every one. So, you're looking at that, and that's the sort of turnaround thing that normally you would hope balances out over time. And so I think it's the reason to be optimistic for KU. I saw one of those projection systems out there when they had it. They had the KU potentially at the top of the Big 12 when it came to projected wins. Again, a lot of teams up there in the 8-9 win range. But, really like what Lance Leipold has done. I was talking to you guys before the show about this, but I covered KU football starting in 2008, the year after the Orange Bowl victory.
Todd Reesing, baby.
Yeah, Todd Reesing and all those guys. That was the Insight Bowl year, and then the next year was when they went 5-7, and Mangino got fired. But I went. It's crazy about. I covered all their road games during that stretch, whether it was the Lawrence Journal World or Topeka Journal or Kansas City Star, and they had the longest road losing streak in Division I history. I'm signing up on these flights, sitting here at home, Central Michigan or UTEP or, West Virginia or Southern Miss. And like every year I'm thinking, every year I do this and I've yet to cover one road win for KU. Crazy. So for them to be like under Lance Leipold, like, oh, maybe they'll win 8, maybe they'll win 9. It's a different world to see that. But one thing always stands out to me, guys, I covered enough coaches and it was the kind of never-ending cycle of coaches that I covered for KU, whether it was, Turner Gill, David Beatty, going through it. But what always seemed to happen was when they hit a tough stretch, kind of inexperienced coaches, they would panic. They would try to do something differently. For David Beatty, he made himself the punt return coach and he made himself the offensive coordinator. Les Miles obviously didn't have his fastball at the end there, so that was a little bit different thing. But I'll remember, you guys should look up this game. I covered Lance Leipold's first year at Kansas, and they went and played at Iowa State, and they just got boat raced. I mean, it was non-competitive. It was 56-0, 59-0, something like that. Whatever. Iowa State named its score in Ames. And so I asked Lance Leipold after the game. It's this tiny room, kind of blank walls. And I said, what are you guys going to do? You guys got boat raced. What are you going to do? What's going to change? I'm just ready for an answer because I've covered KU so long. And he said, nothing. I put my plan in this week. The bye week's coming up. I have a process. This is what happened to Buffalo. This is what happened to me at Whitewater. You stay the course. You don't change things. You take your notes after the game. You do what you do, but you do not panic in these moments. And that's always stuck with me because ever since then, I think when KU was able to hire Lance Leipold, they hired somebody who was comfortable enough with himself and his own coaching to say, there's no need for panic here. I know my system, my process works. And it's been borne out, guys. I mean, the next 2 years, 3 years, obviously they were successful, went to bowl games, did things I never thought I'd see this program do because I would argue the program when I left, basically, and they transitioned to Leipold was in as bad a shape as when we talk about when Bill Snyder was hired back at K-State. I mean, it was in that much of disarray after so many coaches that they'd had. But that steadiness, that process, I mean, it's why the Chiefs win as well, I think. I mean, Andy Reid, you have this system in place, get in line or get out. And that's what Lance Leipold had. And I think it really has paid dividends for them. And so, you hope the quarterback stays healthy in Jalen Daniels. You hope that the offensive coordinator and Zabrowski can bring some of the magic that Kotelnicki had before. But I think there should be high expectations just based off of what they do in the weight room, how they handle things every day, and sort of the process that Lance Leipold has put out there. And so it's I just can't imagine after covering 8 straight years of every road game being a loss that then now they can be talked about at the top of the Big 12. It just doesn't seem real to me. I thought it'd take 15 to 20 years to get them to this point. So it's amazing what he's accomplished.
Last year's roster was really good. That's why I was kind of surprised such high expectations for this year's roster, because I thought last year they had a legit shot to possibly win the Big 12. So that's kind of crazy.
I gotta say too, the training room, the strength room. I mean, you see a guy like
the facilities are amazing.
Say you guys would get underdrafted because you didn't figure that they were going to fit in, like a guy like Dominic Pooney, who got drafted by the 49ers, all of a sudden is one of the best rookies in the NFL. And it's like, this guy's stepping in the NFL ready to play because physically, he's ready to go. So I think their strength program deserves a lot of credit as well. And they really transition how they do things and run a professional operation over there. And it shows in the results, because even going 5-7 last year, competitive in all those games, they were not competitive in many games that I covered over those 13 years.
Yeah. I gotta ask one question, then I gotta go because I gotta tend to my own team. I'm a big Missouri fan, so the one of the biggest news has got to be the revival of the border war. For somebody who covered the border war for a few years, number one, how do you feel about it coming back, and what do you feel like the expectation is for especially on Kansas side?
Yeah, I mean, it's great that it's back. And, I was covering those games at Arrowhead when you had half and half and you walk through the tailgate and people are fired up. I mean, it's one of those things, just like good for the fans, good for everybody. Like, do it. Play this game. Don't let other things get in the way of what should be a rivalry that happens every year. One of the crazy things, guys, is I've never been to Fairhope Field in Columbia. I covered KU for 13 years. I never went to that stadium, and it seems like they should have played multiple games there. It's one of those things. So that'll be great. It'll obviously add to the rivalry, and it's great for the game. It's great for everybody out there, and that's something that needs to take place. Bygones be bygones, and so I'm glad they signed up for that in football and basketball, and looking forward to that. And obviously, it's going to take the attention of this area when it does happen. But okay, you win that game. I don't know. I mean, Missouri and Drinkwitz, they seem to have things rolling as well, and I know he just got an extension too. So I know my old colleague Sam Mellinger used to say it's really tough he thought it was really tough for K-State, KU, and Missouri to all be good in football at the same time, just based off of the resources that are around. Yeah. But man, guys, what a golden era around here, because K-State, KU, and Missouri all seem to have pretty damn good football teams. And so it's a good time to be a fan in these parts, and that should be an entertaining game, because both these teams should be fringe top 25 or top 25, and that should make it pretty good.
Yeah, because I saw the old coach's messages, and it ain't, that's something that I listened to it, but I was like, okay, that's cool. I like the fact of it, but it's great, and hopefully, because I already know we've already sold it out. They've already announced that probably about 3-4 weeks ago that KU is gonna get a sold out Mizzou Stadium, so it's gonna be a really fun time.
It's what it's about, right? I mean, this is whether Mizzou wins or whether KU wins. It's going to be so important for people in these parts. And we all grew up with that, or barely grew up with it, the very early part of the childhood to know that happened. So to get it back is exactly what college sports should be all about. And Kansas, Missouri doesn't go back any further than that.
Yeah, man. The season upon us. It's great time. Football is here, man. And I know everybody, especially locally, is excited. We appreciate having you here, Jesse, tonight. Tell the people where they can find you at, where they can see your work and stuff.
Yeah, I'd just say The Athletic, and obviously The Athletic's great for so many things. I'm on there for, fantasy football stuff. I'm on there for baseball coverage. So it's a great app to have. It's super clean, easy to read. And so encourage people to go check us out there. And obviously some of the subscriptions you can start with are pretty cheap. So get that, get the New York Times, play the games, the Sports Connection games early in the morning, or your Wordle, whatever you need to do. But it's a pretty cool thing to have. And like I said, you can get coverage in a lot of different ways. But at Jesse Newell on Twitter, as you can see on there. But Athletic's a cool place to be, and you get coverage from not only here at the Chiefs, but the 32 other teams as well. I think we've got beat writers for 26 or 27 of them. So kind of giving the national feel as well.
Jess, I have one question before you leave. I wanted to get your thoughts. I know you guys probably mentioned it. The David Booth donation today, I did not know that was like the largest donation in college sports history. I was like, I saw the $300 million. That's
$300 million. You got that lot of money to give away.
That's a lot of money. He said that's the largest donation ever. I was like, for KU to get that, that's like some big recognition. So I didn't know if you had any insight on that. I just had to mention it.
I mean, he already has his name on the stadium. Like, what does he want
so.
now? Is this supposed to be like in lights revolving around the next 100 years or whatever? Yeah, it sounds like $75 million is going directly to the stadium. So, guys, I covered 2 different times when the Chiefs, KU tried to build the stadium and raise money for it and then stopped because it's just such a big undertaking. So you got to give the AD Travis Goff credit because they got the money to go half of the stadium, which is what you see now, kind of like the 2/3. They always take it from this angle because there's still bleachers on one side. Yeah. But his faith was that if you build that project, then people will see that and buy the vision, and then they'll be ready to contribute to the other side. And obviously, David, it's funny to me, like, with all this NIL stuff going on and we have owners in the NFL, are we going to come to a day in college where there are owners, like that are just paying for the NIL money and making the decisions? If so, the KU has a pretty good one ready for David Booth. Yeah. He's ready to go out there and up the salary cap for them. But yeah, a huge day for KU. And obviously they're going to be able to complete that stadium now and make it look nice all the way around. But $300 million, man, that goes a long way towards getting athletes, toward getting NIL money, towards getting a stadium. I was even thinking, some of the projections for Clark Hunt for if the Chiefs are going to remodel Arrowhead, the final bill for him potentially would be somewhere in the $700,000 to $1 billion or $700 million to $1 billion range. Like David Booth almost contributed half of that just out of his own pocket to KU, which is crazy. So, it's a big day for KU to have that and for somebody to be that generous with their money. But it should set up KU for athletically to be pretty competitive for a long time.
NIL era, man, Jesus.
I sent that when I seen the notification come over on Twitter, I sent it to my wife. I was like, how do you have just $300 million? Just here you go. And then she texts me back. She's like, well, he's worth about like $770 billion.
So it makes sense. You're going to want the university to be named after him.
We only have so many grandkids, right? They're already taking care of it. I'll get my name on everything here at KU.
One last question: are you going to be able to get out to the new stadium and see the new stadium out there in KU?
I haven't seen it yet, so that's a good question. Usually these schedules line up so that KU has some weird off-day game or, the Chiefs are in town to be able to do it. So hope to, but I bet the ticket's probably a little bit spicier than it has been in past years. So I like to make one game a year if I can and, go out there and check things out. But we'll see what happens. I think that'd be the goal, but might have to be an early one if I don't want to break the budget here because some of those late games for KU could be pretty competitive and could be, in the thick of a Big 12 race as well.
The suite looks so nice in there.
Yeah. I love it. Crazy. They've done a great job out there with the place, and hopefully, they're going to have a pretty successful season in their new stadium. Well, Jesse, we appreciate you being here with us tonight.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you.
And coming on and talking with us. It's been great. Hopefully, we get a chance to have you back to talk more Chiefs football as well, too. But yeah, man, it's been amazing for us, and we appreciate everybody for tuning in and watching this. Hopefully you guys are enjoying New Heights tonight. That's why we went ahead and tried to record this
Don't worry about
a little early so we wouldn't conflict some viewers or anything like that. So,
I'm surprised the internet's still working, guys. It's crazy. Yeah.
Taylor gonna shut it down. Don't worry.
Appreciate everybody, man. We'll be back before week 0 to talk and discuss KU football again and K-State and all the local teams around and college football landscape as well, and Chiefs as well too. So appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Thank you.